from Cornwall Council, because we've heard a lot about the two sites. And my first question is, I guess the Cornwall Council planning people, and maybe Matthew, will definitely one or the other be built on? That's my first question.
Or both, like Anita just
said. To start with, will one or the other? Because it seems that's what Penryn Town Council have said has been their real stumbling block. So is it a foregone conclusion that one or the other will definitely be built on? That's my first question.
I suppose there's two elements to that. From our perspective, after all of the assessments that was undertaken and the prioritisation exercises of a range of options, we came to two sites. The two sites has been mentioned many times. So from our perspective, what we are seeking to do now is prioritise one of those two sites. Will one of those two actually be built on? Well, in the vast majority of cases, any site that's been allocated for housing, the vast majority will. But in kind of relation to that, I think another point is when we prioritise one, we'll be discounting the other one. So we wouldn't have a document which is suggesting development on the other site.
Okay. And my follow-up question is, obviously a lot of people here would like to see that site removed from the allocation. So what's your best advice for us as the community to go about removing it from the allocation? What steps should we take? I was just interested to hear what you'd say.
Do you really want me to? Do I want to answer that question?
You have the expertise.
You have a lot more expertise than I do, so, and I'm very new, not only to the town, so just want to know everything that we can do to help remove it from that
I think
situation.
One of the key things is tonight, because one of the reasons we're here is to hear the issues that's being raised. What we've got to do, as was mentioned before, is that we've got to look at the planning reasons, and that's kind of the key thing, because whichever site that we identify through this process, we will have that independent examination, and we will probably have barristers from landowners from other areas that's not happy that we're not highlighting their land, and they will be challenging us on all elements of that process. So we need to be 100% sure that the process that we've gone to find that right site, in perhaps our eyes, but may not be yours, and what the outcome is, but whatever that kind of right site is, that it's done through the right process. So in answering your question, I would say tonight's meeting is that starting point, or part of that area. The other thing that we're still more than happy to receive is people's thoughts and concerns on why they think that site shouldn't be built on. And we will take those into consideration before making a final decision on what site to go with.
And what's the time frame for doing that?
Not very long. We're talking now in the region of a month.
Can you give us the procedure? Would you email the procedure to the town council so it goes to the right person, you know what's the consultation, what feedback we'll get, and the rest of it if we email you or write to you?
Well, we can talk to
my next question.
Oh, I thought
Was then, yeah, how do we address those and organise ourselves? And I mean, it sounds like we need to follow the process you followed. So, can we share that process and then direct our findings to you directly, or how do we do that?
We can. I'll need to think about kind of what process in terms of email and so on. What we can have is 2,000 people write in. Makes our life difficult, but I'm sure you'd be quite happy with that. What we prefer is if there is kind of groups that's coming together as a result of this, it's much easier to engage with those groups. Because obviously through this process you get a lot more people that can hear the debate, but it's much harder to perhaps kind of go through some of the issues, look at some of the evidence, have maps on the table and so on. What I would suggest is if there is a group already set up, then we can certainly make contact, give you details, give you timescales. But like I say, what's key to us is the planning reasons why one site over another is favourable.
And there's a month to do that.
Yes.
And that should be directed to your personal email or we can sort the details
I
out.
can make up in the if you like. But whether
Now,
it's-
just people be interested in how they can respond.
Yeah.
How will you review our evidence? What process will you follow to do that?
Well, until I know what your evidence says, it's hard to say what process we'll be going through. But, you know, as
You must have
planning,
experience in other instances where people presented counter evidence. What's the due process you follow to review that?
well, there's partly it's kind of our own professional judgment, but when you come into more detailed evidence, whether it's heritage, whether it's ecology, and so on, depending on the nature of the issues that you're raising, you'll bring in other officers within the council that can provide us advice on those issues as well.
Am I allowed to have one follow-up question?
No, you're not.
If Penryn Town Council changed their mind to support the decision, would that have a swaying factor in your decision about prioritising the site?
Make no difference.
The Cornwall Council, with Penryn Town Council's decision to revoke their decision to support it, would that have an effect at the Cornwall Council level?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, everybody
Sorry,
does
you
it.
know more about the process.
We'd certainly far rather go to our kind of policy panels and cabinet and so on, saying that absolutely everyone endorses what we've got in there. We may not get that. But again, in the same way that we would examine the reasons why you think one site over another is better or not, we would have to do the same with the town council, because as well as endorsing one option or another, what we would like is, particularly if they're going against what our recommendation may be, is we would like to understand why they're suggesting one site over another, and we would have to look at the planning reasons on why they're suggesting one over another. In the same way that we would have to look at an application and the reasons why they're suggesting something should be approved or not, we would have to look at the same issues on there. So I couldn't guarantee that we would go with the town council. It would be on the reasons why they've gone for one over another.
Okay, thank you. We'll have to catch up about the details of how to address.
Yeah, who do we address there? I must have missed that there. Right,
Him.
in terms of the months left. Who
Didn't
is
say
it
it.
addressed to?
We'll do it through the town
I was
council
just say for
website.
now.
The town council aren't very good at communicating with them.
Oh, right,
I'm sorry, you're not. That's why
well,
this is
if
what
you
it
tell
is
us
here.
how you want us to communicate, then I can certainly do that.
A song,
Through the
please.
internet.
I've replied to all inquiries that have been sent to me. I've replied to all questions that I've been asked.
Well, how
to
come
get
this
answers
board
to.
didn't know about this application until the last few weeks, if it was initiated in 2012?
No, the
So
application
your
wasn't.
communication must be brilliant.
No, the
because
application-
nobody knows about it.
Are you going to let me finish?
Well, we don't have the answers to who we came to within a month first.
Right, we'll move on. Please, question from John McGovern.
Anyone who wants to email me is quite welcome to, and I will respond.
What's your name?
Sorry, just in what you're saying, there have been a few hands go up with questions, and our town council is not allowing us to speak.
We haven't got to the
I
end
find
yet.
that difficult.
We haven't got to the end yet.
There are people who have put their
They've
names
put
down
their
to
names
speak
down
and have not.
to speak. So we're going through the list. If we have time at the end, I will open
If
to
we have
the floor to questions. Right, next question. John McGovern, please.
My issue has actually already been raised, which is one about the environmental impact of the proposed development. But my kind of thinking has changed through the evening, or some of my concerns have changed. One is that the notion that development has been focused on where it can be developed in an urban area, Falmouth, Penryn. It seems to me that